Malcolm Little, later known as Malcolm X, was born in 1925 in Omaha, Nebraska. Unfortunately, when Malcolm was a little boy, Earl Little, Malcolm's father, was accidentally killed by a streetcar in 1931. Malcolm dropped out of school after the 8th grade in that same year. There, he was a high-performing student. He dropped out after losing his confidence after being told by a teacher that because he was an African American, he would never be successful. His mother soon was declared legally insane and was committed to a state mental facility. Malcolm and his siblings were subsequently split up and sent to live in foster homes. He lived with his half-sister in the city of Boston from the ages of 14 until he was 21. There, he held a variety of odd jobs. Malcolm was ordered to register for the military in 1943, but was declared mentally disqualified for military service. Malcolm was arrested for burglary, which is taking something that does not belong to somebody, in 1946. While in prison, he converted to the religion of Islam. He was paroled or released from prison in 1952. He soon joined the Nation of Islam, led by its leader, Elijah Muhammad. Malcolm also changed his last name from Little to X in 1952. He explained the change because he no longer wanted a white slave master's name as his own. The X symbolized the unknown, and since he knew little of his ancestry, he believed that an X for his last name was appropriate. He then preached and promoted the Nation of Islam's teachings in a variety of buildings. Due largely to his efforts, the Nation of Islam grew from a mere 400 members at its inception in 1952 to 40,000 members by 1960. As a minister, human rights activist, and prominent black nationalist leader, he brought another perspective to the pursuit of equal human and civil rights by African Americans. Unlike contemporary Martin Luther King Jr. and his peaceful, nonviolent resistance stance, Malcolm sought a more intentional and vigilant approach. He urged his fellow African Americans to protect themselves against what he considered white aggression by any means necessary. His teachings were often in direct conflict and opposition by those held by Martin Luther King Jr. Malcolm broke with the Nation of Islam in 1964, but maintained a connection to the religion of Islam. From February of 1964 until February of 1965, Malcolm was very often threatened by members of the Nation of Islam that he had left. Malcolm met fellow civil rights pioneer Martin Luther King Jr. very briefly in March of 1964. Then, he committed himself extensively to international travel from April of 1964 until February of 1965. Malcolm and his travels participated in a pilgrimage to Mecca, Saudi Arabia, proving to be a life-altering experience for him. Unfortunately, Malcolm's house was firebombed by members of the angry Nation of Islam on February the 14th of 1965. Malcolm was assassinated on February the 21st, 1965 by members of the Nation of Islam as he was giving a speech in Manhattan, New York.